Hi, I would like to remind everybody that we have video content. If you would like to watch things like the archives of my streams of horror games, or the archives of my streams of Souls games or FromSoft games, things like that, or Gary's Darkest Dungeon Let's Play sessions, you can go to youtube.com/Duckfeed.tv. We appreciate it. Greta is coming in and saying hi to me, and I'm not going to ruin the take. So we're going to live with her meows. Anyway, you can also go to patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv in order to support this network. This preamble has gone on too long. Patreon.com/DuckFeedTV.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireball's Dispatch, our monthly Q&A listener response episode announcement podcast.
Yeah, episode announcement made its way to the billboard.
Yeah, it's back, baby. I want people to stay to the end of this so they hear the things.
Me too, yeah. But people still, they say, oh, I skipped to the end so I can hear the announcement. And I guess maybe we shouldn't hide that? I don't know.
I don't know what the things that we decide to have be secret on the network, and the things like there's no reason for us not to say like the next couple months if we wanted to. We have it down. I think that we just don't want to set an expectation,
right?
For
in
that.
case something changes. Yeah.
Like
to be able to stick and run.
Yeah, exactly. That's us. We're the stick and run boys.
Yeah,
stick and run, rough and rowdy, ready boys. Yeah, so we keep that a secret, though. You have to listen to the end of this because we get something if you do. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that these are good episodes and I want people to hear them. Yeah,
but like holding people hostage for that doesn't make any sense. I'm not calling you out for that.
No, it's just a weird. I mean, the whole system's out of order is what it is.
It's incredibly out of order. Yeah. I can't handle the truth.
But yeah, we've got your questions and prompts. We've got the topic for this month already picked out and ready to go. Then we're going to.
We also won't tell you now for some reason.
Nope.
But it is in the title. What coy little fucks we are.
Yeah.
How did I not notice that we're such precious little Brahmses about this shit?
Please, Daddy, conceal the lead.
You get to know about what's happening next on Unfilmable, but not our secret for adaptation decay. It's a surprise. We want to tease you about it.
Yeah, we do.
What is wrong with us?
It makes me feel big.
Disgusting. I am disgusted. It's so funny. What a ludicrous job.
Yeah, it's all our choice. Everything we do, we decide to do.
Totally.
Yeah. But then we're going to read your responses to February's games, your Atari thoughts. Got a lot of Atari thoughts.
That's great.
Death of the Outsider and XCOM.
Yep. The Koi Boys are back at it again. We're going to start. So if you want to ask us questions or suggest prompts, the way you do so is by being a patron. Go to patreon.com/DuckFeedTV. If you have listener responses to the games we play, everyone gets to do that. And that's at a different place. You go to Duckfeed.tv/contact.
Yes.
And the 15th of the month is always the deadline for that.
Yes.
Let's get into questions. I'll go ahead and get us started here. Marcus says, this is a fun one. How about we decide what's fun, Marcus? Marcus doesn't say that. I say that. What tabletop or board game do you think would make a good video game adaptation? Likewise, would any video games work well adapted into board games? I really like the old 1995 Westwood Monopoly game, which gave the game great character and music and styled visuals, including animations for property titles and fun movements, like the submarine going onto the board to complete with Periscope.
Ooh.
I also like that Monopoly game. I played that. That is super fun.
I have not played that.
Computer Monopoly is a weird, like I will, don't want to play real Monopoly.
Right.
But I'll sit down and play like Nintendo or Game Boy or Microprose or, Westwood Monopoly just for fun to pass the time from time to time.
Weirdly seeing Westwood laid out here almost makes me want a Clue game based on the Blade Runner game.
Oh,
where part of it is guessing who was the replicant.
We're really due for a Clue Legacy or like Clue to get the risk treatment or something like that, like a fancy board game version of Clue.
Yeah, they boarded up the conservatory.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can literally imagine that working, and I'm kind of surprised it has not. Happened. I have go-to answers for this.
Okay.
To give you time. So, and this is lame because it's obscure and it's new, but the current game du jour for our game brunch, I have a monthly game brunch with my game friends. We've been playing a game called Too Many Bones, which I would love a video game version of because there is no reason for it not to be a video game. Like it has extreme video game energy as it is. It's awesome. It's made for me. It is the kind of hook is there are a lot of different classes. They all play very differently, but it is about character build and team-based tactics and like a 5x5 grid.
Okay.
So like a small board tactics game with move and action point economy. It has aesthetics that are absolutely fucking poisonous. The character designs on it make me want to die. Like I'm gonna curl myself up into a morph ball and jam a toilet with myself. Like I'm gonna cause a flood on Zeebs from flushing myself down the toilet as a morph ball because the aesthetics look like absolute ass. But mechanically, it is really, really sound and incredibly fun and deep.
What a bunch of off-putting little gremlins. Good God.
I hate them so much. And there's all these like little meme jokes and stuff in the story. And I was like, you could have had an all-time classic.
Yeah, but you fucked it up.
I just need the world to know I'm available to consult. If you're going to make a little kobold goblin shit-eating gremlin game, please just grab me and I'll tell you not to. And then I'll take $500 of your dollars and then we'll move on with our lives.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's something else.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's horrendous, man. But the game itself is incredible fun. It's like really expensive. It's not, you can play it one player, which I looked into getting it because I liked it enough to where I could imagine playing it one player. But it is too expensive to justify that.
No.
So, but every Sunday I'm having like a hell of a time, like exploring these new classes and having a lot of fun with that. And I would love to be able to do that at home and have a computer like handle all the die rolls and shit. That'd be cool as hell.
Yeah. I really don't play a lot of like tabletop games or board game kind of things. So it's
take the other.
Yeah, I'll take the other one. I would really be into a Frostpunk.
Sure.
Board game. I think that really, really fits. Just in terms of, basically the way it handles exposing information to you and the idea of managing a town as a team. And having like different incentives for different roles and like leading different factions and trying to ensure survival while also kind of getting your own way. Really seems like it'd be a great way to do this. That studio 11-bit, they actually they have a board game adaptation of this War of Mine. So like,
I saw that.
They're not like, new to this. They have done it, and I have to believe maybe there is one in the works, or there was one in the works at one time. But yeah, Frostpunk I think would make an amazing board game.
Be incredible. Like it'd be really great. You'd have like the random events, the way that like things roll up, is just like born for a deck of cards. And you get those little things like these choices, like if you want to do this, open this envelope. Like that is born for a legacy game.
Yeah.
Something like that. That would be amazing.
And maybe like the next group of survivors finds the remains of your old group, and changes the starting conditions.
Yeah, depending on your end condition. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. It would be I think it works best. It would work best as a single player game. I think making that multiplayer would be tricky.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want that to be competitive where both players just run their own thing, or you're in the same town with opposite goals would be difficult.
Yeah.
But as a single player or maybe a multiplayer where different people are like the ministers of different things.
Yeah.
Like minister of labor, minister of construction, minister of exploration, something like that. That might work really well.
Do it like that one, that app assisted XCOM game where like one person's research, the other person's Air Force, etc.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, good question. Good answers.
I mean, I'll let them decide that. We decide what's fun. They decide what's good.
And we decide what to tell you.
Daddy. Let's see here. Tara writes, this is maybe uncharacteristically antagonistic of me, but my friend has been speedrunning a certain PlayStation action platform series by esteemed developer Naughty Dog lately, with a protagonist who will apparently be getting an ill-deserved place in the Smash Bros. Ultimate roster as well. And honestly, how can you both pour out so much vitriol on Donkey Kong Country when Crash Bandicoot exists and is in every way the same thing but worse in all regards, and even more behind its era in terms of design? Note, this is in no way a defense of Donkey Kong Country, which, despite my personal affection for, I fully recognize as a basically inferior product as well. Nobody talks about Crash Bandicoot. Everybody talks about Donkey Kong Country, and we cannot let that be.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, that's probably the heart of it, right?
Yeah.
Like if something is constantly being, and that's an exaggeration, but if something is consistently being brought to your attention, and you think it's lame, you're more likely to comment on it than something that is obscure.
Yes.
Like and it's also, the other aspect of that is that it's like, it's not a race.
No.
There's room in my heart for condemnation of two really bad aesthetics.
Right.
Like the like Ooga Booga Witch Doctor Man of Crash Bandicoot and all that like questionably kind of racist stuff, and then the funky jungle rhythms of Donkey Kong both seem equally abhorrent to me.
Yeah.
And then for me personally, like part of it's that 3D cell shaded thing that I think looks really bad.
Yeah.
On the Donkey Kong games I played the most of. They do the Crash games don't do that, even though they do other stuff that's like lousy.
It's not great.
Agreed. So that is my answer. But it is, a lot of it is just like Donkey Kong still, for some reason, a lot of people out there have a lot of affection for that Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
Neither do I. Additionally,
I appreciate you.
I mean, like good call out. Yeah. I mean, and just in terms of, putting us on the record. Yeah. They can both suck. Additionally, Donkey Kong Country, like us disliking Donkey Kong is kind of a network meme at this point.
That's true too. Like we're kind of playing into it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not us just being like expecting like, hey, every time we say Donkey Kong, the crowd should go wild. No. It's more just like it comes up as a ready example because we can go increasingly far with it and do increasingly extreme comparisons and similes and metaphors and stuff that end up being funny because they're so outsized. It's putting on a full suit of armor and jousting a ice cream sundae.
Yes.
Like I understand the degree to which Donkey Kong is ultimately extremely harmless in my life.
Mm-hmm.
We watched that fucking cartoon, though.
We did, but that was also our choice. We could have decided not to do it.
No, I just mean in terms of like the evidence column against the hated Kong.
There has to have been like a one season, like syndicated Crash Bandicoot TV show, right?
Well, adaptation decay, here we come. We should find out. Can't wait. Love to find out the lore.
Crash Bandicoot TV series. Guess what? It's Canadian. French American computer animated children's television series.
Oh yeah, from the makers of the Donkey Kong.
Yep. Produced by We Do.
I wonder what kind of mystic orbs he has to find in it.
It's probably just like a straight up reskin.
Amazing. Like they're just mapped over, the texture is just mapped over the same models.
Oh wow.
Why is Crash so buff? It's so weird. I don't like strong Crash.
Please
computer, show me strong Crash.
Shit. There's a character named Dr. N. Jin who's voiced by Nolan North.
Oh, okay.
Wait, they have John DiMaggio in here?
Oh, so it must be good.
Maurice LaMarche.
Yeah. We'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Why not?
Shit, man.
Fuck. Matt Wilson says, long-time listener, first-time patron. What's your take on the car combat genre of video games, and would you consider covering one for WoW someday? I know the genre hasn't aged well, but I have a lot of nostalgia for several of those games. I need to hear your thoughts on what worked and what didn't, and why the genre isn't around anymore. Thanks for the insight and entertainment. Thanks, Matt.
Is there an example of this that is not Twisted Metal?
Yeah, a lot of like Carmageddon. A lot of them were like on PC.
Yeah, okay.
Twisted Metal is the console crossover car combat game that I know of.
Yeah. No, like maybe Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts kind of works on that too, because there is like some arena combat in there. I don't know.
Rage has car combat in it.
Yes, Rage has car combat in it. Auto Assault, the car combat MMO.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I have no real strong opinion on it. I hate to be disappointing about that, but I did not play a lot of those games. I played some Twisted Metal, and it was all right. But I didn't go deep with it. That said, like I have no opposition to covering something like that. Like it'd be interesting to dip into something that is a genre that I don't know very much about.
Yeah, I think I rented Twisted Metal Black for the PS2 and had fun with it, but I think that you know what it was, like when Twisted Metal 1, 2, and 3 were coming out, my cousin was like super into the story of it, and he would basically describe like all of the like ironic punishments that each of them would get. And when I went to play it myself on the PS2, and it was mostly just like death matches in these arenas, it was like, oh, this in my head, this was way different than what my cousin sold me. So like that there was that initial disconnect.
Yeah, I remember one of the things I remember about it just from picking up from osmosis is how story heavy it is.
Yeah,
like the specific evil clown of Twisted Metal has Sweet Tooth has a surprising amount of backstory and pathos to him, is my understanding. In a weird way, like it almost feels like it presages those Mortal Kombat games now. Those are supposed to have like a fun bonkers story, but they're just a fighting game. I feel like that's what kind of the Twisted Metal games were back in the day. But I just know about that from, I don't know.
Yeah,
I dreamed it. Like I don't know.
Yeah, so like each of the mutants who drive those cars has a backstory, but every single ending, like if you win, like the Twisted Metal's trick is just Wishmaster reporting for duty.
Yeah. They want Sweet Tooth asks for like a big balloon animal, but then he gets his intestines blown up and turned into a carousel.
Happens every time.
Happens every time. Yeah. Happens to the best of us and the worst of us.
Yeah.
So not opposed, but no real opinion is my answer.
Yeah. Not opposed. Let's see here. Stuart writes, you mentioned in your Human Revolution episode that you'd play a standalone game about the hacking minigame were it more fully fleshed out. Are there other hacking or lockpicking minigames you think have that potential for depth or are just super interesting?
I would do if there was an app version of the computer hacking from the 3D Fallouts.
Yeah, that would be mine, actually.
Yeah, I like that. We need the aesthetics and the typing noise and all of that jazz.
Yeah.
But I really like that for a time.
Yeah, just make it, I don't know. You don't even have to make it like gimmicky. Make it randomly generated just as a way for me to do basically a word find mixed with mastermind. That's fine enough.
Yeah, to me, that is the king of the unlocking things minigame.
Yeah.
Something I was thinking about is that former Duckfeed Presents Superstar Thief Simulator is kind of a collection of these.
Oh, yeah.
In a way. Like that game kind of plays like that in a way that I think is pretty cool. That's on sale like currently as we're recording this, but has been for a while for like $2 on Switch.
Yeah.
And I am going to dip back into Thief Simulator and start a new Thief, I think.
I picked up Thief Simulator VR.
Ooh, yeah.
I need to rearrange my office to make it work because you got to be able to walk around and duck and stuff like that.
Steal things.
Yeah, you got to be able to steal stuff.
Yeah, you got to set up a VR in somebody else's apartment.
Yep. You don't even need a Quest. You just need some goggles to put on.
Yeah, and then you have to mail the contents of your points.
Yep.
To the developer of Thief Simulator.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Thief Simulator, I think, is kind of the ultimate example of this. Just because it steals all of its lockpicking and hacking mechanics from elsewhere.
Let's see. We'll move on to other questions here.
Yeah.
We have just a couple game questions. We're going to save them for next month or for an overflow episode. I got a life question here. Dan Sayer says, what is the best pizza combo? One each. So he's saying that we both get to answer it.
Okay.
His is chicken, bacon, steak, mushroom, and sweet corn on a sourdough base with a hot dog stuffed crust. P.S. Patreon tier will be reduced if I find out one of you does not like pizza. As that is crazy.
We're humans. We like pizza.
Yeah, pizza's good.
Yeah.
You really had me with your pizza up until you said hot dog stuffed crust.
Yeah.
like everything about that sounded pretty good to me. Like I am not a pizza purist. I think pizza purists are dumb. You do whatever you want with the pizza. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But the hot dog stuffed crust kind of loses me there, and I don't even turn my nose up at a hot dog.
No,
So
it seems a little bit like hat on a hat, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I would probably also like I would look sideways at just a mozzarella stuffed crust version of this, but like it wouldn't turn me off as much as the hot dog one.
Yeah. In general, a stuffed crust is not my favorite thing in a pizza.
No, it's really it is too filling, I think.
Yeah.
Just puts a brick of cheese in your stomach. Yeah. I'm really easy to please on this. Like my favorite combination of toppings,
unflavored for me.
I'm just like my craziest wish for any of these is just onion and some kind of like spicy sausage would be for me.
Oh, that's a classic. Like onion sausage pizza is extremely good.
Yeah.
I eat all kinds of pizza. So or enjoy all kinds of pizza. I don't eat it very often, but I really love pizza. So like, a go-to, so this isn't necessarily the best combo, like the best pizza I've ever had, because I've gone to fancy ass pizza places and gotten really fancy pizza. But my go-to would be like a mozzarella tomato basil kind of thing, but not the marguerite that just has the olive oil base. Like I want sauce.
Yes.
So a cheese and mozzarella, but then also like chunks of mozzarella, like fresh mozzarella, basil, and tomato.
Yeah.
Is a high quality combo to me. But I'm so not picky when it comes to pizza. Like pizza is fucking good.
Yeah. I think like really
please don't depatronize us. Pizza's good. Please don't lower your tier. Pizza's so good. Dan, no.
Yeah, there are only two toppings that I don't really like. I don't care for mushrooms, and like pickled banana pepper is not really. It ruins the flavor of it for me. Yeah, and like those are the only two.
I don't like a black olive.
Yeah, black olive is kind of in this. Yeah,
give me a salty olive, but no black olives.
Yeah, black olive is kind of in the same realm as the pickled black pepper or the pickled yellow pepper.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. No, the best pizza I had was like this fancy pizza place in Brooklyn called Franny's or something like that, and it was like one of those like super basic, like here's crust and mozzarella and sea salt and like oil, and it was incredibly good tasting. And you only got a little bit of it, and you paid a lot, but it was, it was like, oh yeah, like this can be good and masterful. But like on a regular, just everyday pizza you can get a hold of, onion sausage. I am fine being basic.
Yeah, that's a good pizza. Onion sausage is a real good combo.
Yeah. Let's see here. Retro asks, as you boys are into your spookums, have either of you had any paranormal or unexplainable experiences? Extra points if it's gaming related in any way.
No is my answer.
No is my answer as well.
Sorry. Sorry, listeners. I just don't, if it's happened, I forgot about it. I've had like when walking around and saw like, a weird shadow or a movement, but that's not paranormal. That's a raccoon.
Right.
That's a little garbage friend. That's not, anything scary.
Right.
I think, in general. And I've had like things that were genuinely scary. Like I've had somebody, like tail me for a while. It felt like,
yeah.
And that activated my fear responses, but didn't feel supernatural. I also have a horrible imagination where like, if I am in scary mode, in my mind's eye, I will picture a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like in the turn of the decade when I was going through my Slender Man phase was before I gained all this weight. I was like picturing, I'd look at people's windows as I was walking around at night and picture like a Slender Man or Slender Men in there.
Yeah.
And would spook myself out, but I knew I was just playing a game with myself.
Yeah.
I never thought anything was real. I was just like, I'm doing this because I'm enjoying a little bit of like patina of fear as I walk home in the dark.
Yeah, no, like I've had that where like something looks like it's a person lurking in a place. Man, I really ran into this. There was a house near my college house that had a cardboard cutout of Han Solo in the front door.
Ooh, yeah.
And I knew it was there every single time, but I'd be walking home at night and already a little bit keyed up because you're in a college neighborhood. It's a place where crimes of opportunity happen, et cetera, et cetera. You know, from any kind of like theft up to like a frat guy vomiting on you, some keyed up,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
every time I would see just the shadow of the Han Solo standing on the door, like basically looking at me. But anytime I've experienced that, it has always been just my brain filling in a pattern, just my brain, you know, interpreting a coincidence in a different way. You know, I don't believe in the supernatural. My mind is open for any, you know, convincing evidence, but I do not. I have not experienced one myself.
There's a couple like art houses in Portland where people have cutouts or statues and stuff on their porches.
Yeah.
And every single time that gives me a good spook. So
yeah, no, you just see, you know, just like the mind is always looking for that person waiting in the shadows coming to get you. Yeah,
it's because of the dangerous podcaster lifestyle.
Yep.
You know,
it's why I don't leave the house.
It's why I carry my podcaster's blade with me whenever I leave the house. By which I mean my razor sharp wit.
Yep. Ooh,
the podcaster's blade.
Cutting somebody down to size. Man,
Hey, mugger, what's your favorite video game? Huh?
This mugging is so poorly paced.
yeah, like at least get to the money sooner.
Yeah.
Like you haven't even shown the weapon, and this mugging has been going on for 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, like all this lead up.
Yeah,
about this ant that never talking about this ant that never played out. Come on,
don't bore us. Get to the chorus, man.
Yeah. Good.
Aaron says, I'd like to formally request more of Cole's opinion on historical documents. It's one of my favorite uncommon bits that you guys do. Shout out to Pocket for enabling it. Also, Gary, what are your thoughts on the American Constitution? So this, I don't know where this came from, but like for, you know, like a long time I've been, whenever I need to like, and I do it a lot to Will.
Right.
And I did it a lot to Brayton as well. I think this originated in Teenage Dirtbags, but if I had to get up and I didn't feel like making somebody else edit it out or editing it out myself, I would just say like monologue for a little bit. And like, what does the Constitution mean to you is my go-to monologue topic. And that is what this is in reference to, but it happens a lot. Happened a lot in Teenage Dirtbags, happens a lot in Everything to Guppy. And the way that Everything to Guppy is like infecting the rest of the show, the network.
You had definitely done that on Abject Suffering before that. Yeah.
That's true too. Yeah. I think I had a phase of it and I kind of remembered it. You know, like for a little while I was doing a lot in Teenage Dirtbags and Abject Suffering, and then like it hibernated like a locust and then came back.
Yeah. So. I don't know that I can like off the top of my head talk about a historical document. Like I would need to be prompted with one. And I think
the Bill of Rights.
it's necessary. It's kind of weird that it's like considered to be this extra thing. Yeah.
Good answer.
That's my one or two sentences on the Bill of Rights. Yeah. See, the thing is, like, you went away and you didn't hear my. you never hear my explanations of like what the Magna Carta means.
No, exactly. And different people do different things with it. So like Brayton would always answer about D&D Constitution.
Gotcha.
Like the stat. Yeah. That was like Brayton's thing. And then who knows what Will does? Like, you know, who knows what secrets lurk in the hearts of that man?
Yeah. No, and I pretty much just always say the same thing about the Constitution. It's good that it can change. How about you? Yeah, hey, Gary, what's your thought on the Constitution? Big shot?
Well, I think that it's good that it can change.
Yeah.
And I think that in general, I think there's a weird kind of deification of it.
Yes.
That I think is really strange. Like I think that it's weaponized a lot in terms of like, you know, they don't even care about the Constitution without actually like thinking about what that implies or means, as if it has totemic value on its own. And I think that the idea of it having kind of totemic or symbolic value on its own is dumb.
Yeah, no,
I think it's only as good as its contents.
That is something that was laid abundantly bare if you were like me and listened to every hour of the impeachment hearings.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, dude. You're right.
It was my choice. I made the choice to do it, Gary.
Like we're consummate American stove touchers over here. So like it is a continuous problem.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
it's a good bit.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Theodore writes, I'm in my late 20s and doing my first year of a university degree. Between working, spending time with my partner, and playing with my cat, reading and doing assignments, the hours in the day, week, or month never seem to add up enough. Given your experience balancing tons of work on Duckfeed as well as outside work, I'm wondering if you can discuss time management techniques that you found helpful.
Yeah. Cole may have a more robust answer for this than I do. I open up a Word document on my computer. And so I wake up, I look at my calendar, or I think about what I have to do. I open up a Word document. I put like it to 72-point font, and I write a big list of things I want to get done, and then just do them and cross them off. And then I now have a whiteboard to my left that has a list of all the games that I should be playing.
Right.
So every game we have planned for the show is there in order. So if I'm like doing something else, or I feel like skipping ahead, I can look and say like, you know what? I got to beat Axiom Verge.
Yes.
So.
So I've cycled through many different things. Oftentimes, like if I get into a deep depression, that is the thing that causes me to fall behind on things. And I do like a reevaluation, adapt a new system or whatever. The constant thing is always calendars. Time boxing is very good. Even if that is a plan that is going to change, time boxing is just like, okay, this 2 hours of the day is going to be for editing, and I'm going to do this on a Monday, and I'm going to edit everything that I've got to edit. And there you go.
Doesn't time boxing sound like the coolest sport?
There's a huge differential between how it sounds and what it actually is.
Yeah. Like that like blood relative. It's like one of those things. Time boxing.
Yeah.
The sport of future kings.
Future and past kings.
Yeah, exactly. Like King Arthur versus like Gromlor, the Lord of Michigan.
King Zipzorp.
Yeah, King Zipzorp versus Merlin in a bare knuckle boxing match. Time boxing.
I also I've got a whiteboard on the wall currently off to the side of me. It's pretty big, and I've got like a grid of like all the releases that we've got coming up. So like there's Adaptation Decay, there's this week's level. I've got all my YouTube stuff up there, along with like spots for I used like craft tape to mark out a grid for this. So like I've got like the Patreon release date, the public date, and then all of the steps for basically everything we do: consume, research, record, edit, publish. And like, to me, like being able to mark ticks along those grids every time, and then erase stuff when it goes, and then move stuff up the list like manually, is very satisfying in terms of, cycling stuff through and getting ahead.
Yeah, finding something that feels satisfying so you feel like you're accomplishing things is important in that scenario, I think.
Yeah. And there are all kinds of systems you can look at on this. Don't pick something that ends up being more work than just doing the actual thing.
Yeah, something that I say something a lot, which is preparing to work isn't work.
Yes.
There's an element of preparation, but if if just fucking do it isn't if that would work, that's always the correct answer.
Yeah.
Like I generally think like putting things off and kind of like making a shape for something that is very easy to do, or something that won't take very much time, is a trap that people fall into a lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, if I'm gonna, make this doctor's appointment, I need to like go to my calendar and figure out when I'm doing it, and then have my, my available dates ready or anything, or you can call the doctor, and then while it's ringing, pull up your calendar.
Yeah.
And just do the thing. And that's the way it will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it needs to be lightweight, and it needs to meet you where you are. Like, it shouldn't be that you have to go to it. Like, I can have this up on my whiteboard here because literally everything for work happens in this office.
Yep.
Yeah.
Moving on to media questions.
Yeah.
Here, and this is like a question for Cole, more likely it feels like. Ethan says, the Mountain Goats call and ask you to drop everything and help them write a song. What is it about, and what does it sound like?
Probably about doing meth in a culvert while reading a Bible.
Sounds right.
Yeah, that's pretty much every Mountain Goats song. Oh, I don't know. I really like, I'm not somebody who like draws a firm line at, Tallahassee, in terms of like what is good Mountain Goats and what is bad Mountain Goats. you know, I do tend to like, you know, all hell West Texas. So I like that lo-fi kind of sound to it. But even, you know, if it was one of the popular ones like Cry for Judas or something off of Transcendental Youth, that'd be fine. Like what it's about, like, you know, I would just tell them to pick a Bible story.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fine. I'm good. I'm good with all those. I've just very unsatisfying answers for this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough question.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah.
I also don't feel like it would be my place to tell John Darnielle how to write a song.
No, he's fine.
Yeah, he's doing good.
He's getting by just fine.
Yeah.
Just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's hear. Christopher writes, what are some good graphic novels and comic-y stuff? I've really only read some Sandman, Watchmen, and that Batman Dark Knight Returns thing. Give me some good stuff. Uzumaki is must read.
Yeah, Uzumaki is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I know Christopher likes horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the entire like run of Vertigo classics is basically mandatory.
Yeah.
You know, so like Transmetropolitan, Planetary, which is Wildstorm, not Vertigo. But that's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically anything Grant Morrison or Warren Ellis did for Vertigo is really, really good.
Yeah.
Ex Machina is getting turned into a TV show, and that's a really good comic. It's Brian K. Vaughan. It's a guy who gets the superpower to talk to machines, and he stops one of the trade towers from falling on 9/11 and gets elected mayor.
Oh, like yeah. There we go.
You know, it takes place. It's not about him being a superhero. It's about him being a mayor and dealing with or governor rather, and him. I think it's governor and him. His like past coming back to haunt him.
Yeah.
About that, and it's really good.
Yeah,
it's my favorite Brian K. Vaughan comic. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just my top recommendation would be Uzumaki. Like all of the other stuff that I've read, comics wise, has been recommendations through Gary. You know, so like I could say The Filth, but that is, you know, encompassed in the, you know, Image or Vertigo comics.
Yeah. Like the Grant Morrison mid 2000s stuff is extremely good.
Yeah.
He did a comic recently called The Nameless that is also excellent and is getting made into a movie as well. Cool. And it has a weird manga connection in the weirdest way, because when people showed the symbol from it, people thought it was the Berserk symbol and people were like really excited. And it turned out it's actually the symbol from The Nameless. And then I was like, oh, like I would like, you know, I mean, I guess we have a lot of Berserk adaptations. I don't know if we need any more. No one's quite gotten it right.
Right.
And then I read The Nameless and I was like, oh, this fucking owns. Like Grant Morrison is back on his trippy, scary shit after, you know, just a decade of What If Batman.
Is that just like a 4 or 6 issue run? Because I've got the trade paperback of it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
There's no sequels or anything. The Nameless is a contained thing.
Gotcha.
So there's tons of shit. And then listen to Days of Future Cast to hear us talk about good X-Men shit.
Yeah, no, just all of that. Is the entire run of new X-Men on Marvel Unlimited?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
very
because
much so.
Because like I would make a suggestion to read that whole run of new X-Men, but like the omnibus is very expensive and also very difficult to read because it's so big.
Yeah, too thick.
Yeah.
No, it's on Unlimited.
Yes.
Quick one. Cinder Elf says, have you seen this television show Grimm? It is set and filmed in Portland. Quite fun. Maybe want to visit someday, but I'd have to travel all the way from Norway. I have not seen it, but I do know that it shoots in Portland. Every once in a while you're walking around, or not so much anymore. I don't know if Grimm is still on, but when it was on, every once in a while, like a street would be closed down for filming and there'd be like a little piece of paper taped to the barrier that said, you know, filming for Grimm.
Gotcha.
So, but I've not seen it.
Yep. I've not seen it either.
Yeah. It is cool sounding, and I believe you that's fun, and you should come visit Portland.
Yeah, it's a cool place.
And I should come visit Norway.
Yeah, no, seems like it's a cool place. Matthew writes, often the point comes up on your shows that brevity in media is a plus, since longer media takes up too much of our time. However, is there any game or movie you remember feeling was too short to you personally?
It's going to sound like a gimmick answer. I feel like maybe no.
Yeah.
Like what is something where I've like ended and been like that? I wanted just more of that no matter what.
Yeah.
Like I really appreciate, like, things tend to burn out, you know, and end in kind of a way that is, you know, unsatisfying or keep going or they tend to be like Fleabag, where it's like, oh, that's over and it's awesome. Like that had a perfect ending.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's pretty rare that like that happens, I think.
Yeah, it's hard for me to find one. There were a lot of problems with the Dark Tower movie. That wouldn't have like been solved by the movie being longer. I think it was 2 hours, and that's about as long as the movie should be. But it was just paced very badly in that they tried to cover way too much stuff and made it just a fucking mess. Of like breathless pacing and trying to fit in as many things as they could. So like, yeah, that was like, if they were going to cover all that stuff, it should have been done over a longer period of time, but that's more about pacing than like total quantity than anything. Yeah. So, I mean, I might say no. Like they're probably like generally isn't like, I don't know. It's even hard to say like, yeah, I looked at this game and it finished and all I wanted was more of it at the end. I don't know if that's just because of my job.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, it's just
there'll
hard.
be games that like I love, right? So like, you know, we did Dragonfall, and I love that game, and it's not too short as a game. No. And I, you know, immediately played Hong Kong afterwards because I wanted more of that style, but I was very happy to be in a new setting and new story.
Yeah.
So sometimes there are like series where I want to have a continuation, but I would much rather like redo something with a different perspective on it or a different build.
Yeah.
Or have like kind of an iteration.
Yeah.
Like I don't want Deus Ex Human Revolution to be longer or Deus Ex Mankind Divided to be longer. I do want another Deus Ex game.
Yes.
That's kind of how that articulates for me. It is extremely rare that I want something just to kind of keep going. Most things are too long. Yeah. I really, really honestly do feel that you can make your point quicker than they do.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why it'll be like 2025 before we do a Persona game for the show. Because they're all 1 million hours long.
Yeah. I feel very safe making it a blanket rule and keeping it a blanket rule that everything would be better if it was 20% shorter, including these shows.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's us too.
Yeah.
Moving on to show questions here, saving a little bit for later.
Mm-hmm.
Rookie says, Rookie. Yeah. Whenever I see the word Rookie, I think of Rookie and the Pyre voice. No. Rookie. Is there anything about the way you sound that makes you really cringe when you hear it? Or is there something in the past that you've worked to remove from your own podcasting voice? E.g., I really dislike my own laugh. Maybe someday, but now I don't give a shit.
Yeah, maybe a while ago. At this point, I have heard enough of it that I've gotten used to it. Or having an emotional response to yourself is not helpful. So it's not, you know, something I let happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, just trying to take filler words out is something I have tried to do just over the course of like general, trying to get more professional. But that's mostly been for my own sake, not from like going back and listening to myself. You know, it's not like, hey, this is Homer Simpson. Why didn't anybody tell me I sounded hilarious? You know, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just no room for an emotional response.
Yeah, I think that this is really common. Most people don't like the sound of their recorded voice, and through exposure, like it's literally aversion therapy, right? Like, if you're going to hear yourself, you know, when we used to edit this in real time, I would spend the greater part of a Saturday listening to myself.
Yeah,
and I podcasted before the show came around, so I was very used to it.
Yeah,
if it was still a problem for me, my body would shut down. That, you know, either I'd have to stop doing this, or my body would stop reacting poorly to it.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're having that problem, Rookie, if you keep at it, it will go away.
Yeah.
Don't try to change how you laugh because people will notice and you'll sound fucking weird.
Yeah.
And that is not the correct answer. Like, don't try to change how you laugh. That's a really elemental, unique, and probably good part of you that other people like.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Cassie writes, This is directed at either Cole or Gary, but mostly Gary. Would you ever be interested in doing an Apocalypse World campaign as an actual play show on the network? Moreover, what are your thoughts on Apocalypse World, both as a game and as a system?
We get the actual play question from time to time.
Yes.
This, I think it is a really fun, good idea that I don't have time to do.
Right.
And someday down the road, like I am on a one show in, one show out policy right now. In terms of podcasts. So like something would have to go away. I don't say that to hold anything hostage, but I just, as far as time goes, I don't want to take on any new shows. But it would be fun to do. I think that if I were doing it, when it comes to actual play podcasts, there are different philosophies behind it. I want to hear people playing a game.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear something that sounds like an audio play.
Right.
So I want to hear dice at the table. I want to hear people make asides. I want the digressions and stuff. I want to sound as much like being at a table as possible, and as little like listening to a radio play as possible. So if I were crafting something like that, that's how it would be. And in general, like I really like Apocalypse World. I think that it's really easy to play, and character advancement's really fun in it. And it's very versatile. I think it doesn't scratch a tactical itch that I have sometimes in tabletop very well at all.
Right.
And I think that it kind of depends. Like if I'm in the mood for a story-light game, that is as story-light as I want to be, and that's my go-to.
Yeah.
If I am in the mood for something a little bit crunchier, though, I try to avoid it and play something different. So I do think it's mechanically very elegant and good. I just think that it is lacking a little bit in like the game part of tabletop, which is kind of unfashionable to like, but I do think is really cool and important.
Yeah. So just you want something for play that's more than facilitated improv, which is what it seems Apocalypse World, Dungeon World
Largely
mostly leans into.
Yeah, which is cool. Like I think that has its place. It's opened up the game to a lot of people. The game I'm running right now with my tabletop group is Apocalypse World. Like I generally really like that and think it has its place. I just don't think it's solved tabletop.
Right.
Like I think there's an attitude that among tabletop people that in kind of like bending over backwards to reject Dungeons and Dragons,
right,
have said like, and to be inclusive, which is a good impulse,
right,
have been like, you don't need to have this be a game at all. Like there isn't room for the concept of challenge in this. And I think that like, I don't know, like I think that is kind of a cool, problem solving and puzzle solving is fun.
Yeah.
If everything is a correct answer, that can tell a really cool story and you can have tons of fun with that, but it's not the only way to have fun.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, yeah. Gabriel says, one of my favorite podcast networks just went exclusive to Spotify, and it rustled the feathers of a lot of their fans. What are your guys' opinion on these sorts of exclusivity contracts, and would you do this provided the chance?
No.
I mean, no.
If the money was right, okay, probably not.
The money would have to be like astronomical.
Yeah.
Money. Like it would have to be silly fucking money.
Yes.
Like somebody would have to make a really bad investment in the two of us. Like, yeah, we're going to give you $1 million a year to do this. I'm like,
okay.
Okay, sucker. It would have to be just like an absolutely stupid amount of money.
Yeah.
To do that. I think that it doesn't sound like I look at this from the perspective of doing it rather than a listener, and it sounds really bad.
Yeah.
Running ads for other people, like, reading ads about Carfax and stuff sounds horrendous to me.
Yeah.
And getting, part of any kind of creative work is that you take a joy in people hearing your creative work and putting, letting fewer people hear that, which I understand we do kind of through the Patreon, but we still put out 1 billion hours of stuff for everyone.
Yeah. And also it's through the Patreon, but literally anybody can take that feed and put it wherever they want to. We're not controlling that they can only listen to it through one particular app.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want, I feel like, people want their creative stuff to be experienced.
Yeah.
And it feels like it gets in the way of that.
Yeah. It seems like such a bad deal. If this is the deal that I'm thinking of, like the person who, if it was like Last Podcast on the Left or something like that, like part of the deal was Spotify basically replaced their production team, while the talent kind of stayed on, which, man, I don't know. That seems like a Wayne's World 1 kind of deal to me.
Got real Wayne's World 1.
Yeah. It's your basement, but it's not your basement. Additionally, like, one of the reasons why they have that money to throw around is because if they can get you into a walled garden on the app, listener stats and listener behavior becomes much more monitorable, and they can sell your behaviors. Basically, they can sell information about your listening behavior, which makes you more valuable as a commodity for advertisers, which I don't know. I don't feel good having the audience be that.
No.
There's all kinds of like ethical things about it that would make the price tag associated with it really, really high.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's no real reason for us to.
Right.
But in general, I'm against it. And when that kind of thing happens to stuff I like, it's pretty good offboarding opportunity.
Yeah.
Like I'm not encouraging, anyone to do that specifically, but for me, like when something like creates some friction, I live my life under the I have a lot of stuff I could be doing and listening to and watching principle, and that's just true.
Mm-hmm.
And if something becomes some friction for me, like depending on what it is, like it's a weird thing. Like I patronize a lot of my friends' Patreons, even if I don't listen to their shows.
Mm-hmm.
I just do it to support my friends.
Yes.
So that is not a bridge too far. But like going through and downloading an app I don't use, and every time I listen to this podcast, I have to open up a different app. But for the rest of them, I can open up this app.
No.
That's really fucking obnoxious.
Yeah, and Spotify has a terrible podcast implementation as well.
Even if it was great,
yeah.
I just don't want to like click between two different apps.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like nothing, but like
no, it's friction. Friction matters.
It's friction. And I know that I know how a little bit about how the economics of podcasting work. That like that podcast was not offered the kind of exorbitant amount of money that it would take for me to do that.
Yeah.
Like it might have been a decent deal.
Yeah.
But not to the degree that like I think that it's worth the trade-off.
Yeah. Additionally,
money isn't everything.
Right. Additionally, we are in a privileged position to be able to have options about it.
Yes.
Like we are making our living off of this. We don't need to say yes to any kind of Faustian bargain. Some other people might not be in that position.
Yeah, I'd be curious as to what, like, knowing the details about it and what they were offered.
Yeah.
If it's quit your day job money, if I didn't have this,
right,
and it was quit your day job money, yeah, probably would do it. Mm-hmm. If it was not quit your day job money though, if it was like a little extra on the side,
no,
I'd rather just build it up.
Not for me, not for us.
No. Let us move into lightning round before we do our topic.
Yes. Jeez. Okay. Chris Taylor asks, why is Cole so bad at making pancakes? It's a saying. It's a saying.
Yeah. This became a thing on the Slack for a little while.
Yeah.
A question about it. I don't get it. Cole gets it. It's okay.
It's a saying. No, that's all. Like you can look it up.
I wish there was another saying that meant the same thing.
But there's not. And I'm going to keep on saying it no matter how much friction there is.
I really wish there was another one. Yeah. Like we should come up with them. Listeners, what's something you do wrong the first time and then do right the second time?
Yes.
That's your assignment for this month.
Yes. Anyway.
Julia says, please rank by cuteness the following furry friends. Rats, cocas, guinea pigs, and hamsters. I had to look up cocas.
Me too. They don't look right.
They're really... Yeah, I think they're pretty cute, but they do look like weirdly sentient.
They're about like they look like they are 1/4 of the way from between anamorphing from like a hamster to a koala bear, and that half in half outness is pretty unsettling to me.
Or a kangaroo, or something. They also permanently smile, which I find a little bit odd.
Yeah.
For me, because I have a personal relationship with two very special rats in my life, rats have to win.
Yeah.
Because of Blossom and Six, the two rats that I get to snuggle with, two brothers that I love very dearly, who I hang out with a lot and like crawl all over me and lick my face and be extremely cute. I drag their balls across my neck, basically.
Oh, of course. Because that's all they do.
Horrendous balls.
They don't know how to not. So.
Yeah, I really wish that we could have neutered those guys when they were still young.
Yeah.
Neutering them halfway through their life seems cruel, but like, I just really do not like the testicle game on a rat.
No. For me, number one would have to be hamsters. I don't know. There's something about their proportion that really works for me. Mm-hmm. But rats would be pretty close behind. I think that guinea pigs would outrank quokkas, mostly because of the sounds. Guinea pigs make wonderful sounds.
Yeah. There's an I don't know about quokkas in terms of intelligence and stuff. But one of the things with guinea pigs and hamsters is they're both dumb as fucking posts.
Yep.
And that can work either way.
Yes.
Like you can get a rat you can tell a rat to go give you a tissue and you can train it to go give you a Kleenex.
I love those videos.
That's incredibly cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time you sneeze, a rat goes and gets you a tissue. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. You're basically living in Cinderella.
Yeah. That's a brown janket. You got yourself a brown janket, but without all the horribleness.
Right.
But like a guinea pig, like a guinea pig is like Todd from Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Like they can be cute, but like,
yeah, no. I just like their little bleats. I always stop by them at the pet store.
Oh, they're incredibly cute, just like Todd. But like they're not smart.
Right.
They're a little too dumb.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference between the Busey guinea pigs and the Gary Sinise guinea pigs? Like as far as the grooming?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, there's those wild guinea pigs There's the Gary Busey guinea pigs.
Okay.
That are all like, crazy haired and stuff. And then there are the ones that look like kind of big hamsters.
Gotcha. I am more fond of the short hair ones, but I wouldn't kick a Gary Busey guinea pig out of a cage.
Yeah.
I
think they're harder to pet. The Busey ones.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I like to know how much fluff I'm going to get before you hit resistance, so I don't snap it in two.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're all great though. Rodents are great.
Yeah.
Pocket pets is what they call them at the vet. They're really like. Isn't that great?
The shelter where I got Greta called them critters.
Critters is good too.
Yeah.
Like, gotta love critters.
Critters.
Yeah. Animals are just good. Like,
yeah.
I don't. I can't get over it. Like, animals are just good.
Yeah. I think that exact thought like every day.
Yeah. I love them so much.
Yeah.
Like, they're all good. They're all my friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Matthew writes, if you could have any one item from a Souls game in real life, what would you choose?
Lord Vessel.
Of course.
Yeah. Teleporting would be cool.
Uh-huh.
I'm slow Nightcrawler, baby.
Let me get out this flint and tinder. I need a fire to set by. But yeah, the travel between two different fires.
Very cool. Like, end up at Burning Man all the time.
Damn it. Well,
That's
okay, at least there's drugs.
Yeah, at least there's drugs and tit.
I say that like I do drugs.
Or like you do
it would be the miserable thing.
Yeah, it'd be horrible.
Okay.
I would totally go to Burning Man just to have a story.
Yeah.
Just for like 5 abject sufferings in a row.
Yes.
But other than that, like, it's mostly for the novelty.
I mean, I view Burning Man like I view the Gathering of the Juggalos pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much the
Which
same
I would
thing.
also do.
Yes.
For abject suffering purposes.
Right.
Like.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. They would immediately clock me as somebody who is there for anthropological reasons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a morality to that. I've thought about many times. Like,
yeah. I just let them be. Let them throw trash at tequila.
Yeah, let them eat each other's asses out and leave makeup stains and buttholes. Like, it is not my place to judge.
Nope.
So Holland says, Duckfeed opens up a network-themed restaurant, so obviously you guys had to make up your own version of the happy birthday song to avoid any lawsuits. I didn't expect that to go that way.
Yeah.
How would that go?
Well, since 2016, Happy Birthday to You has been in the public domain as the result of a controversial court ruling.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we would just use Happy Birthday Classic.
Yep. My favorite answer to this is from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Happy Spirit Journey Formation Anniversary by by Geddy Lee and oh gosh, what's his name? Mother Danzig by Geddy Lee and Danzig.
Yeah.
7 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the real answer to this, not to take a joke question and answer it real, is we wouldn't make our employees do that.
No.
Yeah. If it was your birthday, we'd be like, oh, congratulations. Like, let's get to business.
Yeah. You'll get a free, and just the spirit of generosity, we will give you a slice of cake. That is cool. Yep. But, and if you guys want to sing, you can, but guess what? Our serving staff is not monkeys.
Yeah. You get Jalaprenda's birthday fries and that's it. Gabriel says, Cole, which department store do you like more? Kohl's or Ross? Gary, would you ever move to Gary, Indiana?
I'll do mine first. I've never been to a Ross. I've been to Kohl's. They just don't have them out here. I've been to Kohl's. That was primarily the place where I got most of my clothes when I was in school. Like when my mom would go by. I've got a problem with Kohl's because anytime I've ever gotten a coupon, my mom will be like, oh, I have 30% off at Kohl's. I'm like, all right, it's cool. I'm going to go and get a new winter jacket is what happened recently. But there have been other times you go there, you get up to the front and you say, I'd like to buy this jacket with this coupon. And they say, actually, this coupon doesn't apply to this brand. Yeah, they do that to you, which I do not care for.
That's unfortunate.
But
yeah, I don't like that.
No.
Yeah, I have been to a Kohl's. I've also been to a Ross. Got a Ross by the mall. Ross is fine. I bought a bunch of white shirts.
Yeah.
Undershirts from there. It was cool.
Kohl's is a good place to buy shoes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I buy it. I would never move to Gary, Indiana.
I mean, you went there once and saw a car on fire and nobody seemed concerned, right?
on my way to a Kids in the Hall live performance, and nobody seemed to care.
Right.
My association with Gary, Indiana is it's a real pit and it smells bad. No offense to anybody who lives there, but as far as towns go.
Yeah. I think about that car on fire every time I drive through it on the way to Milwaukee.
Every time you torch a car.
Well, yeah.
There.
That's just for me, though. That's
Yeah. I think about it because as a pyromaniac,
Yeah.
fire gives me a boner.
Can't finish without it.
Can't finish without it. Can't finish with it.
Toka writes, have you guys got any thoughts on Dying Light 2? Since Chris Avellone is the writer, could it be a stealth New Vegas successor?
Yeah, no, I love Chris Avellone. I love his writing. He's written like most of my all-time favorite games.
Yep.
By volume. His more recent stuff has been like, now that it feels like he's kind of a professional ad to existing products.
Yes.
I associate him with making dialogue not embarrassing more than being transcendent. And I don't mean that to be damning, because like, it's really important, playing through Divinity Original Sin 2, which he did a lot of contribution stuff for. It was really a big deal.
Yeah.
That the dialogue and like, that was such a quantum improvement over DOS 1.
Yeah.
That it was such a really valuable service to that, but it wasn't like, oh, this is torment to me.
Right.
So I think he will make, and that's the Dying Light, which is a cool game. The writing in that first game is repulsive.
Yeah.
It is an embarrassing video game as far as story. It's incredibly fun mechanically. So if he can do the same, which is the same thing as DOS 1, if he can do the same thing and just make Dying Light 2 not embarrassing, but keep all the mechanical shit from Dying Light, then he will have done, the Lord's work. And that's what I'm expecting from Dying Light 2.
Yeah.
Or hoping for, I guess.
Yeah. I can't, like, what was the last game that he was the sole design, not the sole designer for, but like from conception, it was his idea to tell this kind of story in this particular way.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because like he is brought on as a sweetening layer for pretty much everything, which is fine and needed. But yeah, I'd be curious to see him, take a shot, because like he did writing stuff for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and I can't tell.
Yeah. He is like, sweetening is its own skill. Yeah. In writing, it's different than just kind of conceiving from the ground up, and it's a valuable skill. Yeah, but it's not going to give us another New Vegas. No. So like when I see him added as a, when he is a bullet point, when Chris Avellone is a bullet point on something, it means that I will pay attention to it and like just kind of like wait and see. But it is not necessarily like a day one purchase, day one play kind of thing. Yeah. Even though I am very interested in Dying Light 2, because Dying Light 1 was some of the most like co-op fun I've had. Yeah. While just absolutely having a dog shit story. Right. The traversal and movement in that, like the grappling hook that you get in the second half of the game, is fucking incredible. Yeah. Like first person grappling is very fun. And that's the team that did Dead Island, right? Which also has one of the most embarrassing fucking stories that I've ever seen in a video game. Really bad and gross. Yeah. Absolutely disgusting. Just like gross, shallow. There's a character named Cinemoy. Like that's not a name. Cinemoy? Like me and Derek, like for some reason, Derek just started going Cinemoy and saying it like that. And I don't know why, but that's a thing every once in a while. Derek will surface with me and it's very funny. Cinemoy. It's a repulsive game that nonetheless had fun combat. Oh yeah. Ian says, I'm interested in Gears Tactics, which looks like a blend of XCOM and Gears of War. What other games or media properties would work well with XCOM style adaptations? Shit, man. D&D. D&D? Like X-Men. X-Men would be very good as well. Yeah. So somebody mentioned the X-Men thing on the Patreon, I think, in the comments to the XCOM thing, and my heart skipped a beat. and it was like, shit. Like it would be classless. Like you'd choose individual X-Men. And they'd have to be pretty different. Yeah. But that could fucking work, dude. And D&D would be a phenomenal. And D&D is classful, and it would make up for that shitty D&D Tactics game. Yeah. It's just like, it's so obvious that should be a thing, but it just hasn't been. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, boy. Instead we get that'd be really good. Instead we get like, I don't know. I don't have an awful lot of hope for that Dark Alliance game based on the trailer that I saw, but that wasn't gameplay. Yeah. So maybe it could be good. Yeah. I don't know. And that's definitely not, it's not going to be tactical. No. Yeah. It's not going to be tactics. It's going to be Diablo-like. Yeah. Which is fine. I like the Dark Alliance games, but yeah. Yeah, let's get into our topic.
Yeah, let's do it. So the topic we have ultimately decided to do here is a combination of two prompts that we have gotten. And I'm going to give you kind of both of the topic suggestions here. First, Beatrice writes, I recently watched a video review for a $1 game on Steam, just a mini game collection that probably was designed to take up an hour or two before you put it down for good. What was interesting to me was that the reviewer preemptively countered what seems like a typical response to short games regardless of their cost, mainly that it doesn't have enough gameplay or content to satisfy the purchaser. Given that it was less than a decade ago that people were buying 3-minute songs on iTunes for the same price as the above-mentioned game, what are your thoughts on the price to value disparity between games and other media, whether that be dollar theaters, coin flippers, or comic floppies, etc.
Coin flippers?
Nope. I scrolled down.
They spell and pronounce their names differently.
I scrolled down and I saw that I remember that the last two words began with C and F, and my mind filled in the rest.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We're really learning how Cole reads out loud.
Yeah, one step ahead of the game, baby.
Yep. So, and then Philip goes in to talk about specifically like negative reviews that games get for being too short, while said games were also really dense with detail. So bringing up an example here, 2015's The Order 1886, which it reviewed very, very poorly for being short. Here it says taking only 6 hours to complete, but Philip really enjoyed all of the small touches that they put in to recreating that era of London. Basically saying, does this kind of review or does this kind of reaction to short media, make developers less willing to put small touches into their games? And focus on anything besides lengthening the game as much as possible to add to perceived value.
Yeah, or add to, the two different matrices of work you can put into in terms of depth and length.
Yeah.
So like broadly, we did the ethics of game consumerism. This is, what we're kind of calling like the economics of game consuming.
Yes.
In general, like not just touching on it generally, but specifically as of length and how to evaluate time versus dollar.
Yes.
And guessing about the developer side, but speaking to the consumer side and their critical side.
Yeah. So, there are kind of two rules that I bring to this. I really try not to, when I'm talking about a game, not to assume what somebody's dollar to hour ratio ought to be, because you have no idea. It's kind of like with the Patreon, right? We have no idea what $5 means to that one person, So I tend to try to divorce those two things. And along with that, you just kind of have to let each individual person decide what that is for themselves, So when it comes to like making a critical evaluation of it, that's where I stand on like factoring in length versus value. I generally will not comment on it unless it is extremely egregious.
Yeah. I my instinct is that it should not matter to the evaluation of a thing.
Right.
So like, choose, I was just going to say a movie that I think is really good, but then you're going to end up with people being, well, not for that movie. Like choose a movie you really like.
Right.
Like whatever a movie is that's generally considered to be really great, like The Godfather.
Yeah.
Right. You go buy a movie ticket to see The Godfather. Again, don't fuck with me with inflation on this. Like I'm trying to make a point. Yep. Straw men, they're circling around me like fucking gnats. But you spend $7 to go see that movie.
Right.
If you spent $70, the movie doesn't change. Mm-hmm. Like the movie itself is not different. So like, does The Godfather become a bad movie at that point? No.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like this plays in the circumstances of like the difference between the quality of a thing and the worthiness of it, which are weirdly two different axes.
Yeah.
That are oftentimes conflated. Like it can matter. Like I wouldn't spend, I like The Godfather. I wouldn't spend $700 to see it.
Nope.
So it's not worth it to me, but that doesn't mean that I would like it less or that I think it's worse or that it's objectively worse or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think about with like The Order and stuff like that. I remember reading reviews of that and thinking that game looked really cool.
Yeah.
When that was coming out, and then everyone hated it because it was so short. Somebody uploaded a full playthrough of it. It was like 4.5 hours long.
Yeah.
And then there was this controversy where somebody was like, no, that was like somebody going too quickly. If you try to get everything, it's like 6.5 hours or something. Mm-hmm. And that's actually not that short for a single player part of a multiplayer game. Like a Call of Duty campaign can be 7 hours long, but this didn't have a multiplayer component. And for me, I'm like, I don't care about that. Like, I did a lot of my like personal calculus of determining my worth, but it has nothing to do with the quality.
Yeah.
Or the kind of a critical evaluation of the game.
Yeah. And so for me, just because I get upset generally when people complain about things online, it's hard for me to brook it. And that's my own cross to bear, I guess. But like when I see that happen, I almost want to say like, hey, we live in a world where the only thing that stands between this being not worth, the hours not being worth the money that they're asking and the price dropping to where it matches for you is like 6 months. Like you can get the Order 1886 for like $15 now, and that is a pretty good hour to dollar ratio, regardless of what somebody started with, right? So I think that there's a certain amount of like, just there's a stripe of indignance that comes to that comes from this, that pretty much falls into the meme category of greedy dev, lazy dev. I think that it just becomes like another way for people to just start kind of like moving their chips around on the table so that they can go, meh.
Yeah, it's a place to have a principled stance.
Yeah.
On a principle that like, I don't know, it's fairly questionable whether this is the fire that needs to be put out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the, so that's like kind of the third axis of determining this, which is time, because your point, like I was gonna bring that up as well, like wait long enough, everything is cheap in video games. Like the fact of the matter of this hobby is that unless it's a first party Nintendo game or ends up being very rare, you will be able to play almost anything digitally for like $20 eventually, so that's the actual price of games. Games are $20.
Yes.
What you're doing is you're spending an extra $40 to play it sooner.
Yeah.
And only you can determine what that's worth to you. When you make a principled stance and you start trying to determine whether it was a justified decision.
Yeah.
That's the thing you're talking about. And that's dumb because most people who are making that point do not really have an idea of what kind of a cost and teams and stuff go into these games. We know that people who make these games are not well compensated or well treated for their labor. Like there are people who make a lot of money who are these publishers, for these games that have the stink to them. But the people like crafting those environments didn't make the decision to make this 6 hours long. They worked really, really long hours, really hard, probably, didn't see their family and shit. And just being like, oh, this is the developer, being shitty, being lazy, being exploitive and stuff.
Yeah.
Like saying the developer in that sentence is almost too vague, to be worth saying.
Right.
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, guess what? Like the majority of the people who worked on that game that you're complaining cost too much, they were laid off 4 months ago because their project ended and now they're looking for work at another studio on a new project. Like
that they will also have little control over, that they will not be the person that determines whether it fits your dollar to time ratio. And that's us saying that that's not a valid complaint doesn't mean that it's not a valid choice, like a metric for making a choice. It's an incredibly valid metric.
Like if I was talking to somebody and I knew they only had a certain amount of money for a game, I'd be like, I don't know, maybe skip that one, wait for it to go on sale. Wait for it to go on sale is like appended to most of the recommendations I make.
Why wouldn't you?
Interpersonal, right? Like, oh yeah. Like you can have more games if you wait for them to go on sale. Yeah.
Okay, work on killing the hype inside you.
Yes.
Hype will cost you so much money as you're in your life as a gamer. Like that is going to be, if you killed the hype that you have inside you, you will end up with enough money to retire.
Yes.
That's not quite true.
No.
None of us are retiring.
Nope.
But so like if you have $60 and you're like, yeah, that sucks. I don't want to buy the order. I need my $60 to last me more than 8 hours.
Yeah.
$10 an hour is not good enough for me this month because this is my budget. Perfect. But that's the end.
Yes.
Like that's the end of the sentence, I think.
And like it for me, it's like that stops being a take I'm going to pay attention to as soon as it becomes prescriptive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it has no, like, I think I like when reviews say that stuff in a very dry way and don't comment on it.
Right.
Like a review for the order, to me, the perfect review would talk about the order and then at the end be like, it takes about this long to beat and it's about this much money.
Yes.
And let me read that and say like, okay, I've now read about the experience.
Yeah.
Is an experience that, like, what is the equation? Like, is the experience that long worth this much money to me right now?
Yeah.
And if not, like, I can pass and I can wait. And if so, I can buy it. Yeah. It's not getting really fired up about it is weird to me.
I mean,
even if I do respect. Yeah.
Yeah. If that is the noise, if that is the thing that is going to be drummed up every single time one of these things comes out, like, okay, so you want developers and publishers to solve for time played. You want it to be so that whenever somebody buys this game, nobody tells them they're done. It can just keep going. That's how you get a Fallout 76. That's how you get the spate of shooter looters and things like that. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem wise to me as somebody who likes video games to always be solving for time played.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're somebody who favors long games, the one of the like network axioms is it's a big enough pie. There's lots of games out there. If you want an incredibly long game for $60, they exist.
Yes.
Where there's no shortage of them. If you want a contained experience for $60, there's no shortage of them.
Right.
The market chasing either of those axes is going to be harmful for us and is going to be harmful to the art side of this.
Yeah.
The intersection of, where I was talking about, you were talking about how this kind of thing can be a metric for decision making, but not for kind of making a quality judgment.
Right.
When those things interact, like the decision making, the consumer decision making, and the quality of art, that is always a place where the medium gets worse.
Yeah, it's deleterious
when those two things meet.
Yeah.
Really dangerous and shitty.
Yeah. Additionally, I think that there's just a certain amount of short-sightedness when it comes to identifying development trends. So, back a couple of years ago when EA let go, or Amy Hennig left EA, and they basically canceled a whole Star Wars game, like a single player Uncharted style game. And they're like, yeah. And then everybody came out. I think EA even came out, said something like the days of making a single player game that's over in 10 hours are over. Well, fucking no, they aren't.
Yeah.
I think that it's probably worth saying that, like, I don't know, if you can't make money selling games people like, you can probably find a way to cut back on the budget, cut back on the top line so your bottom line can get bigger. There are lots of ways that games are expensive to make that you could scale back on while still releasing a good product. All that the EA Star Wars thing said was, oh, we can't pump unlimited money into this thing that only a certain number of people are going to buy and not put money into afterwards for additional, costs. Right.
Yeah.
For additional, like, in-game purchase kind of things. Like, everybody saw that as an axiom about the way video games were going to go. And that became another panic about this particular dollar to hour value proposition. And that was incredibly annoying to see.
And seeing people do it then in turn fed developers, where we get all the Schluter nonsense and everything being a live service, because they're corporations make sense. They're bad.
Yep.
But they make sense.
But they're always going to solve for one thing: profit. Like, you just, like, everything is going to point to that. If something they're going to do would make them more money in the short term, then they are going to do it. However, in the 2 years since that take went around and everybody was crying doom, I have played any number of recently released 10-hour single player games.
Yeah.
So,
you sometimes have to widen your scope.
Yeah.
Like, there is an element to, like, you sometimes have to make a compromise to get that version of the thing, so you end up with things that don't fire on all levels. Like, maybe the production values are not as high as you want them to be, on something.
Yeah.
that to me, you know, I can't speak for anyone else. To me, that's not a huge price to pay. Like there's still, you know, you look at something that is ostensibly kind of a modest product like The Outer Worlds, which I have still not played through. I just kind of started it. But yeah, I'm kind of saving it. Playing through The Outer Worlds, like that is a modest product. It still looks great.
Yep.
Like that's still way past the terminal velocity of how cool something can look.
Yeah.
To be totally adequate. And like maybe if a bigger developer had put, you know, more money into it and such like that, it would have been a single player experience that also had, you know, we don't get that many Witcher 3s and Cyberpunks.
Right.
We get one of each.
It's,
you know,
and it's not wise to expect every game to be that, because those games they've got blood on their hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like you know, we don't want games to be more like that.
No.
You know, ultimately that is bad unless you only care about your entertainment dollar per ratio and getting all this stuff. And that lack of empathy is a really shitty thing about this culture and the subculture. And it's one of the reasons why gamers are believed to be largely toxic.
Yeah.
You know, even though there are of course tons of exceptions, is because of that weird putting, you know, your dollar, your consumer rights ahead of literally every other metric in the world.
Yeah.
You know, be it art, be it human suffering, be it anything. And that's just like so repugnant. So in general, like make your decisions based on your budget.
Yeah.
Trust yourself to do so. You should not be judged for doing so.
No. Somebody
being really hyped about something they think is really good that you can't afford is not a slap in your face.
No.
It is not, you know, if a game takes 10 hours to beat and it's $60 and someone bought that for $60 and they really loved it and they love that it was only 10 hours long, that is not an insult to you.
No.
Like there's no universe in which that is an insult to you.
Yeah.
That is something you get to not make that decision, you know, and it says nothing about the game. Like you deciding not to buy it does not mean the game is bad because it's 10 hours long, or good because it's 10 hours long. Like you haven't played it. You just have decided not to experience that. And that's fine because there's a million things to experience.
Yeah.
And everything is okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like another side, you know, last week when we talked about, or whenever we talked about delays, right? It's like, oh yeah, like wait as long as you need to, put as much work as you need to before the release, because guess what? I've got an infinite number of things to play. The way that I look at something when it comes out and I'm like, yeah, that's, you know, I can wait on this because there are so many different things to play. You know, they cost me nothing. I'm not sitting here twiddling my thumbs waiting for it to get to $15-$20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling that intense FOMO about the thing, like I don't think it is fair to put that on the art.
Yeah.
Or even on the people producing the thing. Like it's The Simpsons, like it's the company's fault for making you want it so much. You know? Like, no, it's not. Fucking child. Grow the hell up. You know?
I love that.
Like, it's like one of the best Simpsons. And just like one of the most observant little bits about video game thing. I love that so much. Even though now as an adult, like I would play the hell out of Lee Carvello's putting challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
The game looks so good.
Yeah. You selected Power Drive.
Power Drive.
That's one of my favorite. Digmas. What is it? The guy who does the Simpsons like remix music video things.
But yeah, that's you know, it is not the company's fault for making you want it so much.
Yeah.
Don't be silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks everybody. Yeah. Let's move on to your responses to our games, February's games.
Yeah. I didn't expect this many people to write in about Atari.
Oh yeah, this is a spicy fucking response.
Yes, it is.
Zone here. You read that last question. I'll read the first Atari one here. Robert says via contact, a fun piece of trivia that I can only occasionally get to use when discussing classic games is to have someone guess what system I first beat Myst on. No one ever guesses the Jaguar. It is very weird that the port exists. I guess Myst was the Skyrim of its time. Anyway, there's a giant robot game on Jaguar that was fun, and the Myst port seems pretty well done. I can totally see Myst working just fine on Jaguar.
Yeah. I first played Myst. I didn't beat Myst on it, but I first played Myst on the Sega Saturn.
Yeah. It's a weird one.
Yep. I still have it, actually. It's really hard to read the journal text on just a regular television resolution.
I believe that.
It was a problem. Man, I wish Jaguar was easier to emulate. I want to play that AVP game real bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well.
And is it a port of the computer game?
No,
or is it its own thing?
It's its own thing. It's like specifically like a Doom-like done in AVP.
Well,
yeah.
Well, so is AVP. Is also a Doom-like, basically. I'll have to look that up. I'm not trying to doubt you about that, but if there's an easier way for you to play it, like
the Alien versus Predator game that you're thinking of, the Jaguar game came out like 5 years before it.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, so to throw on skeptical voice. You're blowing my mind. It sounds so different than everything I know.
Jack writes in via contact saying, as one of your younger listeners, I was born after the Atari era and never had any exposure to it until last summer. As my final project for my master's degree, I worked on a machine learning program that played Atari 2600 games such as Breakout, Space Invaders, and Pong. The goal of the project was to understand how computers learn games via reinforcement. While I've never played much of any Atari 2600 game, my research got me to appreciate the simplicity of the games, as well as how advanced they could be to play if you really dig into them. Even though I don't find them that interesting as games go and have no nostalgia for Atari, I can appreciate them for what they are and what they were able to do in their time. Atari 2600 games are actually quite popular subjects for machine learning research these days due to their relative simplicity, both in controls and graphics. I love that my generation is getting to experience these games, even if it's not quite in the way they originally intended.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have more feedback than that's neat.
Your research sounds really cool and way above my head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know what machine learning means. But yeah, I mean, I do. But yeah, I don't have a tight one on it.
Yeah.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah.
Alicia says via contact, I turned 8 just 2 months. For some reason, I thought I was going to say I turned 8 just 2 months ago. And I'm like,
whoa.
Alicia, your parents should not let you.
Yeah.
Listen, come on.
What police department do I need to call?
Yeah, I know. I don't want to stop saying pussy. It's a good word.
Yeah.
Alicia says by contact, I turned 8 just 2 months after the VCS was released. And as a computer/video game aware nerdy kid, I was, of course, extremely excited when I heard about the system. My earliest memory of actually seeing it up close was probably during the 1978 holiday season as a display unit at the local mall's toy store. They'd never let us mall kids play, but we'd still stand and watch store employees play it for hours.
Those monsters.
Horrible. Yeah, why? What is it there? Until they kicked us out of the store. I never had a VCS 2600 myself, but my American cousin from the better off side of the family had one, and later a 5200 as well. Whenever we'd visit, I would get in as much time as I could playing it. I was an arcade kid, and I remember being disappointed with the graphics of the 2600 arcade ports. But in retrospect, I'm amazed they did what they did with the resources they had. Later, when Activision started making games, Pitfall and Pitfall 2 really blew my mind and changed my perception of what video games could be. To this day, I still love big environments which reward exploration, and the Pitfall games are really the genesis of that. Yeah, and adventure.
I want to go back in time and give those clerks a real talking to.
What a dream job.
Yeah,
those teen clerks are probably extremely happy.
Yeah,
just for us.
Lording their Atari 2600 over the mall kids.
Yeah, fucking mall kids. Like, you guys don't deserve to play a demo kiosk. It's for us to demo it for you.
Yeah, right. Look at me. I'm a kid in a bunch of stores that are connected to each other.
It's very weird.
Come back when you go to stores that are in separate buildings.
Yeah, go choke on a Julius, orange style.
I could kill for an orange Julius.
I would drink one of those right now, and I don't even like them that much. I think that I'm just kind of thirsty, is what I'm realizing. And water is
I'm pretty thirsty, but I miss the particular chalky texture of a Julius. It's good.
Yeah. There's one in the mall by my house, so I could get one of those anytime I want.
Dairy Queen advertised, we sell orange Julius. So I went there. There's a Dairy Queen near me. And like, I'll have a medium Julius, please. Which one? Orange, please. Sorry, we don't have orange Julius. This is just the branding we put on our smoothies.
Wow.
That is bullshit.
They bought the Julius name.
And then they didn't sell the Julius product.
And it doesn't mean anything. Why did they choose that one?
I don't know.
Like, Julius isn't a beverage.
You couldn't buy,
it's a human
like
name.
you could just get like blackberry and strawberry, both of which are fine, but they're not fucking orange Julius's.
When you said that story, you're like, I'll have a Julius, please. And they said, what flavor? I thought you were going to end up with like, I don't know, like A1.
Ooh, Sardini.
Yeah. This Worcestershire Julius.
Jesus. Oh, man. So Kirk writes via contact. Around 2004, so 20 years after it was commercially relevant, I made a homebrew game for the Atari 2600, Joust Pong, later rebranded Flat Ping, but picture Pong with Flappy Bird controls. I'm a programmer by trade, but I've never been closer to the hardware than I was then. The book Racing the Beam describes what a challenge it was to make a game with no screen memory. Just a slow processor struggling to get bits and bytes lined up just in time for the TV's physical electron beam to sweep across the scan line. When I wrote my game, everything was in pure assembly code. But since then, a brilliant language called Batari Basic has lowered the bar greatly, albeit at the cost of letting the programmer squeeze every drop of performance out of the machine in a game-specific way. I connected with a great community, first on the old Stella mailing list, and then on the website Atari Age, who has played a huge role in getting physical cartridges made. Seeing a real cartridge plug into a real Atari on a real TV was hugely gratifying, and let my 30-year-old self fulfill the dreams of 12-year-old me.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Congratulations on doing that incredibly difficult thing.
Yeah. That's very, very cool.
Yeah. Doing this research has made me want to spend more time. I haven't seen this at Midwest Gaming Classic, but PRGE, they always have that homebrew Atari section. I went to, I looked at that the first year that I went, and then I never paid any more attention to it. I want to see more of what people are doing in that environment.
Yeah. There's that haunted house game.
Yeah.
That they've been demoing for like years. That looks really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Nick says via contact. I was born in 1982, so Atari was my first game console. Most of my memories with it are just flashes of things. Moon Patrol with, I can't believe we didn't talk about Moon Patrol. I fucking love Moon Patrol. Moon Patrol with great music, Night Driver with the paddle controller, Haunted House with its scary ass sound design. As an adult, I grew to love Atari box art. Illustrators and art directors could go with whatever concept they thought would encapsulate the idea of the game best. Even some terrible sports games had incredible box art with collaged illustrations overlapping and bleeding into one another. Since the graphics were so basic, there was a high level of abstraction between what you were seeing and what you were doing in the game, and the box art helped bridge that gap. Haunted House has my favorite box art. It made the game far more creepy when you can imagine boomerang graphics were those bats, and asterisks chasing you were that spider, and the pixelated eyes of the character were actually the terrified eyes from the cover. There is an Art of Atari book that is great and highly recommended. Here is a Polygon article about it. Final thought, Circus Atari has great animation. And
that's a great death animation specifically.
Oh, great death animation.
Circus Atari is a very weird game. It's not fun.
Oh, yeah.
But
no, it is, yeah. There's the company that did that CRPG book and that Art of Adventure games also has an Atari art book coming out.
I love both those books. I might want to get that. That's what, Bit Books? Bitmap Books, yes.
Yep, which I love.
Yeah, agreed on the Haunted House box art. It's like I've got it displayed on a wall. Like I just have that case there. It's very good.
Yeah, and it is that kind of rounding up the presentation was a huge part of that era.
Huge part of the appeal. Yeah, it's cool to see Nick talking about illustrators. At least that's what he did when I worked with him in the past. So yeah,
very
hey
cool.
Nick, hope you're doing good.
Yeah. What does Ray say?
Ray says, it was a trip to listen to your Atari episode because I was hearing you recount Bushnell's and Jobs' labor crimes while I walked to my job in Cupertino. I worked down the street from the Apple UFO, and it was refreshing to hear someone decry how toxic the history is. I grew up in the South Bay, right in the pocket of Silicon Valley myth-making, and I even have an uncle who worked for Activision and made games for the Atari, but it's very weird to live in this place and not be involved in tech. I work in education. It's a blast. Lol. Also, it might be this local bubble too, but I never ever hear that Jobs and Bushnell were terrible and hyper-capitalist scammers, which they absolutely were. But just that they were business gods who broke a few eggs. The mindset here is wild and all-consuming. In summary, thank you for bursting that bubble a little bit. Sometimes I feel gaslit living here in a land of Superfund toxic sites and labor exploitation, and Elon Musk and the college I work at having a literal shrine to Jobs and Woz in their computer information science lab.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'm happy to share those stories. Like, I like the products that came out of Apple, but you read any of these famous anecdotes that are like, that people bring up like straight-faced as, wasn't he a genius? And like, no, he was just a dick. Yeah. We would have gotten at that stuff eventually without like yelling at people and throwing their prototypes into fish tanks and stuff.
The idea that like it is worth unlimited human cruelty in order to jump that advancement curve a little bit is a really gross and pernicious idea.
Yeah, I don't care for it.
Yeah, I do not care for it either. Yeah. We're not here for that.
And it's not necessarily like it probably is heightened where you live. I've never lived in Cupertino, but like I, even outside of there, never really hear much outside. Basically all you ever hear is hagiography about those people from that era, about Jobs, etc. Yeah. Silly.
Doug, friend of the show and patron of the Atari episode, says, first off, I want to thank you both for the entertaining and obviously painstakingly researched episode. I was born in 1980, and the Atari was my first console. I'm certain that if it weren't for that console, I wouldn't have the passion for games that would make me want to patronize you, and this episode in particular. So this sort of squares a circle, or at least a weird pixel rectangle. I think the Atari
it's one scan lab and one color clock.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, Doug. I think the Atari ecosystem is fascinating as gaming's primordial soup, or perhaps its Precambrian explosion. While most games boil down to do the thing, now do the thing a little faster, and repeat, for me, the Atari memories that endure are the ones that broke out of that mold that did something more ambitious. I can remember afternoons spent trying to memorize the tricky platforms of Jumpman, riddling out the inscrutable puzzles of Journey to the Planets, or desperately trying to master the fast-paced, complex jumping and shooting of Moon Patrol. It was the perfect console for 4-year-old me to cut my teeth on, back when time was endless and the imagination could be fired on primitive mazes and blocky squiggles. Perhaps most of these games will be lost to time, fossils seemingly rendered irrelevant by the NES, a console that deservedly remains evergreen. But I would encourage the younger listeners of this podcast to spend some time with the Atari, even if only for archaeology's sake. The same way that it can be enlightening to check out a silent movie or see how technological limitations can foster innovation. None of these games are the Mona Lisa, but a macaroni painting of the Mona Lisa can still have a charm all its own.
Well put.
Agreed.
Yeah. You can sit down and have a good afternoon playing with one of those like Atari systems in a box, or downloading like the entire like an entire collection of Atari ROMs is about 2 megabytes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's worth your time.
Agreed. And I had a really good time, going back to it, spending some time with it. It was very fun.
Yes.
So I appreciate you, Doug.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug. Moving on to Death of the Outsider responses. Stuart writes via contact, I really love this game, but I was a little disappointed to see questions answered about the Outsider himself. I like this kind of mysterious trickster character and wanted him to remain inscrutable. I know his absence doesn't remove the Void's influence from the world of Dishonored, but should he have been left as a mystery?
I think the idea was like, they talked about this, the current Dishonored games being kind of the Outsider's arc.
Yeah.
And I think the idea is they just wanted to be able to draw a line under that and move on.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like generally I don't want things explained, but a lot of times that's for perpetual things because you have to go back to it.
Yeah.
So like the example I always use is they did that Wolverine Origins comic. So we know Wolverine was a sickly little boy who was brothers with Sabretooth in Canada. That's dumb.
Yeah.
And, and the only reason it's really dumb, if it was the last thing that ever happened to Wolverine, it'd be less dumb. The fact that I still had to wake up every fucking day and read about Wolverine and know that it's what makes it more frustrating.
Yeah.
The fact that the Outsider won't appear, we're not going to have to deal with the explained Outsider in future games, theoretically. So I think that ends up making it a little bit better.
Yeah. Makes it a little bit better. I also like the way that they handled it, like him being a sacrifice was a good arc for them to choose. I think I like that a little bit better than him just being the manifestation of a space whale, which is what we thought in the first. But
yeah. And he's still he's tied to it, but whatever that means.
Yeah.
There's a nice little parallel with that where, because, the Abbey of the Everyman blames all of their problems on the outsider when really it is human evil.
Yeah.
It is the occult and stuff like that. And then Dowd and other people who have been influenced by the outsider, they're saying like, hey, you made us do this stuff. And like, no, it was our own base influences and stuff. So that
to have it come full circle to be that the influence of the outsider is the result of human, of human action in cruelty.
Yes.
Works.
Yeah. That ends up making sense to me.
Yeah. Yep.
Alex says via contact, one thing I really appreciated about Death of the Outsider was the fully regenerating void energy. It papered over the more limited power set by letting me use them as often as I wanted. I do wish the face-stealing disguise ability had a bit more usefulness, but I really loved using it to participate in the auction to win the poppy serum instead of stealing it.
That was a good touch.
That is a good touch. Fun. And I like the regenerating void energy too, even though it does lead to times where it's like a time
waiting.
tax.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just standing and waiting for your stuff to recharge kind of blows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
generally agreed.
Yeah. Duke writes in via contact saying, I wonder how many of this game's limitations are due to time and budget constraints. I really, really like Death of the Outsider, but it has a lot of elements that are great in theory but have tricky practical application. Semblance, Plagued Spirit, etc. And more so than that, has some really cool details that many players will probably never see because they are hidden in areas the player has no reason to return to. For example, if you keep Jacoby alive in Mission 2, but turn him into the journalist, you can find that Jacoby has hanged himself in his apartment in Mission 3, but you have no reason to return there. Similarly, if you didn't kill anyone in the Spectre Club in Mission 2, you can go back in Mission 3, but again, there's no reason to. If you went on a murder spree in there in 2, the club will be sealed up by a Grand Guard soldier with a civilian asking an eyeless goon why the club is being investigated if it is a, quote, legitimate business, with the eyeless complaining about being the victim of slander. Still, many of these complaints come from a place of wanting more and or finding missed potential in a game overflowing with great stuff, so there are worse fates for a game. And then Duke adds a parenthetical here, correcting us. Also, I try not to be the kind of person who goes around correcting pointless details on podcasts, but I wanted to bring this up because it is absolutely delightful. Regarding the self-portrait of Duke Abel, the situation isn't that it was made by the body double, but is still valued because people think it was made by the real Duke. It was made by the real Duke. The body double is a truly good painter, and one of the reasons the double can't stand the Duke is because the Duke takes credit for his paintings while himself being a terrible painter.
I had forgotten that detail.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting us. It's like when there are two options, I will pick the wrong one first every time.
It's just been a little bit since I played Dishonored 2. As far as that kind of, this could just be me rounding up on behalf of a developer I like. Yeah. I like that there are those little hidden details that you have no reason to go back to.
Yes.
And when I try to think of a reason to go back, I feel like that might be a little bit artificial. Like I kind of like those as hidden things. The idea, like almost like little Easter eggs.
Yeah.
You can find. That feels like one of my favorite like TV tropes rabbit holes is that like the developer foresight.
Oh, developer thinks of everything. Yeah.
It got renamed to Developer Foresight.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
TV tropes drama.
Cool. All right. Yeah.
I don't, I'm sure that they're like some of the least tolerable people on earth argued for a long time about making that change.
Sure. Yeah.
For some reason, but it is, I love that kind of stuff in games. Like I love, the developer, anticipated you doing something that you wouldn't necessarily do and accounted for it logically. That makes me really happy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I think of those two examples.
Yeah. And talking about like the powers that were not necessarily utilized to their fullest, like the developer has come out and said like, yeah, we had much bigger plans for Semblance, but we had to scale it back because of time and money limitations. Like that is just part of the story of the development of Death of the Outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yep.
Moving on to XCOM Enemy Unknown Within. responses.
Mm-hmm.
Ben says via contact, XCOM and its sequel are some of my all-time favorite games. The drip feed of new enemy units throughout the game is masterful, and adjusting your tactics on the fly to these new threats is exhilarating. I think these games are at their best when everything goes wrong. The amount of times a missed shot would take down a wall to uncover a second enemy squad, leaving me outnumbered, was a brilliantly traumatic feeling.
It's so hilarious when that happens.
Yeah, it's great.
It's one of the most disastrous things that can happen to you in a run.
Yep. It's really, really horrible.
Yeah.
I love that, so I've been, the XCOM basically took over the Slack for a while.
Yes.
When we were covering that, and it has really, really lit a fire for me to play XCOM 2. And the only reason why I haven't done it is because I don't want to like give myself a project that I do instead of work.
Right.
Because I know that I will chug it.
Uh-huh.
And I do not need a chuggable.
Yeah, no, you need to step around that hole for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Corey writes via contact, I didn't get around to playing Enemy Within until XCOM 2 had already been announced, and since I had played Enemy Unknown, I decided to try Iron Man mode. I encountered the newly added Newfoundland Chrysalid mission relatively early. I didn't even have laser weapons, and hadn't really built up a bench of reserve soldiers. Thanks to my experience with the original, I handled the initial Chrysalids reasonably well, until arriving at the boat. By that point, I had taken some hits and used most of my consumables. I slowly, carefully maneuvered my entire squad up into the boat and discovered the wind condition and structure for the rest of the mission. Getting all the way back to the extraction point while dodging waves of chrysalids was a mad dash, and only one injured soldier survived. I had only a few green recruits to use going forward, no money to recruit anyone else until the month rolled over. Knowing the premise of XCOM 2, I decided this was it. This is how we lost. I only wish they offered to import a failed save game so you can get some incidental dialogue could mention how things went south for you.
Like it.
Love it.
Yeah. XCOM 2, the premise is you lost.
Yes.
So
yeah, and
for people who don't know,
it might as well be Site Recon that did it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would lose a lot of hope knowing it was in the ocean and any sufficiently large thing could be a hive of those things.
Yeah. The mimic aspect of it, gets rough.
Yeah.
Tom says via contact, so XCOM is my favorite multiplayer game that I've never played a multiplayer game of. My friends and I all play, and like everyone else, we make our friends and coworkers in the game. We share notes about our games. However, the truly wonderful thing is that one day, something happened to my friend, as my friend Tim was explaining what happened to my character on the last mission using only Simpsons clips. I was worried that I had died in his game, but luckily for me, it was a warning alligator. This one's corked. The next one would not be corked. I added that this one's corked because I did not know that Tom was going to cover it.
Yep.
One of my favorite late period Simpsons jokes, by which I mean solidly in the first third of the show.
Yeah, I just watched it. It's season 8.
Yeah. Regular daddy. Since then, we don't describe events. We just use clips from TV shows or the like to explain the events of the missions, and it's genuinely wonderful and fun to experience and to be able to make jokes with your friends. Mm-hmm. From the outside, it's so esoteric. Nothing about it makes sense because it would necessitate a knowledge of each person involved and group dynamics and XCOM as well.
Yeah.
But that kind of showed me that our friend group, what our friend group was and was able to become. XCOM meme wars are a perennial reminder of the closeness of my friend group.
That's very sweet.
That's cute.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I like it.
Personal chats are not for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It does not matter that it's inscrutable.
Yep. I regret to inform you, Cole, that the Cole Ross died in my darkest dungeon.
Oh, how did I go?
You got killed fighting a boss.
Okay, cool.
Fighting a swine god thing. And I went and I had a mod installed where I can go to like a witch's house and resurrect somebody.
Okay.
And then I went and did it and it was fine. And I was like, the whole time, the whole video, which will come out, I'm so far ahead on that series because I'm depressed, so I'm playing video games a lot. I'm like, I gotta get my boy back.
Did I cemetery? Did I come back wrong?
So I thought it was going to be, since I had to jump through a hoop for the resurrection, I thought it was going to be a special one, but they wanted you to come back with no upgrades. Okay. So it cost like 60,000 gold or whatever to get you into shape, and they wanted 35,000 gold on top of that and 200 heirlooms.
Oh, let me go, man. I'm not worth that.
I installed a Cole too. Like I found another highwayman and just named him Cole 2.
Yay!
So the class is still associated with Cole,
Okay.
but it's Cole 2 now. So, but realizing it was very funny, like the live commentary of me realizing, like, I'm not going to bring him back. I can't afford that. It's like 3 weeks of grinding.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do that.
you have my blessing. I would have been angry if you did anything else, man.
No. I mean, if I did, you'd never go out again. I wouldn't upgrade you. You'd just be
Right.
like the town mascot. I'd just turn you into a Zadok Allen. Just hang out by the bar and like tell everybody about the horror that's under the mansion.
Yep. Oh man, good shit.
Oh.
Okay, let me see here. Matthew writes, I was really excited to see you guys doing an XCOM episode. I have 3 specific games I've been eager to hear your analysis on since I began listening around the Tomba episode, and this was one of them, so thank you. Thank you for listening for so long. Tomba was quite early on. This game unlocked 2 things for my understanding of how I enjoy games. 1, I love it when terrain matters, and 2, I love permadeath. My enjoyment of permadeath comes from a perfectionist streak that I have that makes it hard to enjoy games sometimes. I've always been far too twitchy with the reset button. There are so many games where I just play the beginning over and over and over, and honestly, this lack of desire to see things through when they go wrong is a problem I have noticed in my, life. It's not a difficulty thing. I don't really value conquering difficulty in a game at all. I feel no shame saying that the one time I beat this was on rookie mode. And it isn't like later Fire Emblem where turning off permadeath fundamentally changes the strategy of the game. It's just that even on an easy difficulty, permadeath gives me a safe space to practice a certain measure of mindfulness, self-control, endurance, and reactive problem solving. Needless to say, I really love this game. Thank you for covering it. And by the way, the observation that it always looks like you're catching the aliens masturbating is spot on, and I will never unsee it now. So thanks. Rock out with your cock out and down with fascists.
I'll leave my cock where it is. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I will continue. I'll continue on the stated course with my cock, but I will also continue on my stated course with fascists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay in with my play in. Just like, keeping it, not going outside, not taking out my dick.
Yep.
So in a weird way, my apartment is my pants and I am the dick and I do not leave it.
Right.
So if I can stay within the comfortable walls of these pants, I will.
Yes.
No. Good on you for, taking a degenerate gamer habit and challenging it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody has to do that, but it's good to be like aware and be like, hey, this is actually impacting my enjoyment. I'd rather enjoy this in a different way. Here's how I can.
Yeah. I can exercise self-control over this with the aid of a game and the options. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Our final response is from Gwilym. Says via contact, thank you for doing this for WAF. It got me to finally play through it on normal, and it's been a significantly more joyous experience than the pure misery of basically all my previous attempts. Against my better judgment and against everything I've ever learned about gamers, I had somehow bought into the idea that Classic was the true way to play, and that normal was an easy mode that cheated in the player's favor, and that was an abomination. And that my dick would fall off, and this would also be an abomination. Wrong on every single count. Catastrophically wrong. But mostly, I want to speak to my appreciation for Central Officer Bradford and his absolute commitment to being the blandest character in video games. I love him. He's adorable in how straight-laced and unflavored he is. And as far as the cutscenes are concerned, he's basically the protagonist. This is weirdly inspiring. I mean, it's not like he's an uncommon archetype or anything, but it's one that would usually get 2 or 3 lines, probably in voiceover, in the middle of a Call of Duty mission. Here, he gets the majority of the spoken lines and the most screen time. You have to go all the way back to the first Command and Conquer to see this kind of ultra-plane officer type in such a prominent role. It does help that he looks quite a bit like the original Doom guy. He implies a timeline where instead of learning to rip and tear, he learned to look at radar screens and nod gently. And XCOM taught me that all skill advancement is a binary choice, so that's definitely what happened. Supposedly, XCOM 2 reimagines him as a tired, worn-out veteran, and I do not support this at all. Bradford does not require sleep. His sweater recycles his body's energies and keeps him in a permanent state of arousal. He cannot become tired. Oh, and the applause when you first shoot down a UFO is an extremely nice touch, and I'm utterly certain that it was Bradford who started it. It's absolutely his style. Thank you, boys, and thank you, Centrist Officer Bradford. It's very funny.
Yeah. A fitting tribute.
A fitting tribute to one of our bland nerds, the blandest of our three, that you get to control in that game.
Yeah. Very good.
So thanks everybody for writing in. If you have things to say about March's games, which are Valdis Story, Axiom Verge, and Ocarina of Time, hit us up at duckfeed.tv/contact by March 15th.
Yes. And if you have thoughts about April's games, well, we're going to tell you what those games are now.
Yep. And April 15th is the deadline for that. Those are going to be, and this is all patron picks.
Yes.
So if you are interested in sponsoring a game, we would encourage you to do so. Just as a disclaimer, like those are booked out fairly far in advance. There may, we're still talking about, there may be some changes to how that tier works.
Yes.
We'll announce it with plenty of advance notice, but people have been coming through on those and they've been doing good picks and we're very happy about that.
Yeah.
We don't want to discourage you, but if you decide you want to pick a pick, it will be a thing that will be a little ways down the line, just so you know.
Understand the expectation. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So in April, we are covering Luigi's Mansion.
Luigi's Stately Manse.
Like
been on,
it's been on my list, our list for a while.
Yeah. A short Mario adjacent game is appealing to me.
Same.
I don't have a lot of experience with Luigi's Mansion. I played the first one a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's really it.
Yeah.
So
I like the third one. Third one's good.
I'm really curious. We will see.
Yeah.
Something that is a sure bet for me because I love the first one is Legend of Grimrock 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
We were given a choice of which of the games to do. Probably not going to cover both Grimrocks, and Legend of Grimrock 2 has some cool improvements.
Yep. Decided to go for the ease of use as opposed to the the Ocarina of Time, the series as in conversation with itself approach.
Yeah.
For this one. That's a spicy meatball. If you're playing along with us, it's a longer one.
Yeah.
You'll see that we sandwiched it between a couple short games on purpose.
Yes. So the third game of that month, it's a 4-game month, is going to be Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time.
Yep. Also has been on our list for quite a while. Yeah. Really excited about that.
Same.
And then finally, our premium episode for that month is going to be Wolfenstein: The New Colossus.
We joked about embarrassing credits music. And, so we're like, we're going to talk about, we're going to hit this in a game coming up. And everybody immediately clocked it as being Wolfenstein: The New Order, The New Colossus. So
people guessed it pretty quick.
Yeah.
This
the first one.
This feels like a very fast follow from the last Wolfenstein game, which is fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's less than a year, but that's okay because, they're cool.
They're good
games. Yep. And The New Colossus to me is a worse game. Like it is a really cool story. Has one of my favorite all-time scenes in video games that I literally cannot wait to talk about. I think it is absolutely amazing. And there's just like tons of really good dialogue in that game.
Yeah, there's bad level design at the start. Like you spend the first third of the game in gray hallways.
Yeah. That's really the problem with it. Then it picks up and it's never gets great, but the story stuff and the that stuff I think is actually really good.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
Same.
We have cool stuff planned for May as well. We're kind of, we talked about wanting to do like kind of some more indies.
Yes.
We're doing it. So far in this year, Tactics and Indies year so far. And that is, those are two pleasures.
Yes.
So Tactics and Indies, and then like a weird preponderance of Metroidvanias in one tiny little blip. So,
yep. Cool.
So if you want to ask us questions, if you want to patronize an episode, if you want to join us on the Slack or do anything like that, head on over to patreon.com/duckfeed.tv. $5 a month gets you in that ecosystem, gets you access to the Slack, a bunch of bonus episodes, premium episodes, the ability to vote on this stuff, Bonfireside Chat, Unfilmable, a billion things. $10 gives you a lot more stuff. You can go to $5 and $10 respectively.com in order to get a full viewing of what you get.
Yeah. Additionally, you can leave ratings or reviews on Apple Podcasts. Tell your friends about us, either, on social media, etc. It's real easy to share these episodes from the website where they're published. And if you are in the area or you have the ability, come out and see us at the Midwest Gaming Classic on April the 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We are not doing a solo panel. We're teaming up with Retronauts for their panel. there, but we will be tabling all weekend, and we will have a meetup of some kind.
Yep.
That we will advertise as it gets closer to. So come out and have a couple beers with us and say hi.
Yeah.
And stuff. It is a good fun time.
We would be very happy to meet you.
Mm-hmm. And that's about it.
I think so.
We will see you next week with an episode about Valdis story.
Mm-hmm.
And good night.
Good night.